Stop what you're doing right now and ask yourself one brutal question. How many times this week did you say yes when you wanted to say no? How many times did you agree to something that went against your own interests just to avoid disappointing someone? How many times did you sacrifice your time, your energy, your resources because you couldn't bring yourself to say that one simple word? No. And here's the part that should terrify you. Every single time you said yes when you meant no, you train the people around you that you're controllable. You're predictable. You're weak. This isn't about being polite. This isn't about being a team player. This isn't about being a good person. This is about the fact that your inability to say no is destroying your life in ways you don't even realize yet. While you're busy being agreeable and accommodating, other people are using you. They're taking your time. They're draining your energy. They're accomplishing their goals while you sit untouched. And the worst part? They don't even respect you for your constant yes. They see you as easy, as someone who will always bend, as someone who doesn't value themselves enough to protect their own interests. That I'm going to tell you something that will make you uncomfortable. The people who use you the most aren't evil masterminds. They're ordinary people who learn that you don't protect your boundaries. They learn that asking you for things works because you never say no. They learn that your time and energy are free for the taking because you've never charged a price for them. You taught them this. Every yes you gave when you should have said no was a lesson. You were training them to take advantage of you. And they learned well. Niccolo Machiavelli observed 500 years ago that generosity, without boundaries, doesn't create gratitude. It creates entitlement. When you're always available, always agreeable, always willing to help, people don't appreciate it. They expect it. And the moment you finally try to set a boundary, the moment you finally say no, they're offended. Not because you're actually being unreasonable, but because you've broken the pattern they've come to depend on. You've stopped being the person who always says yes, and that threatens their access to your resources. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I say no without guilt or explanation. Because what you're about to learn will separate you from the 95% of people who will spend their entire lives being used because they're too afraid to say one simple word. Let's start with the brutal truth about why you can't say no. The reason you can't say no isn't because you're nice. It's because you're afraid. You're afraid of conflict. You're afraid of disappointing people. You're afraid of being seen as selfish or difficult. You're afraid that if you say no, people won't like you anymore. You're afraid that if you prioritize your own needs, you'll end up alone. These fears control you completely, and everyone around you knows it. They might not consciously recognize it, but they feel it. They sense that you're afraid to disappoint them. And whether they mean to or not, they use that fear to get what they want from you. This fear was installed in you deliberately. Think about your childhood. What happened when you said no to authority figures? You were punished. You were told you were being bad, selfish, difficult, disobedient. You learned that saying no leads to negative consequences. You learned that saying yes keeps you safe, keeps you approved of, keeps you loved. This conditioning runs deep. It's not a conscious choice you're making. It's an automatic response that was programmed into you before you even understood what was happening. But here's what that childhood training didn't account for. Those authority figures, your parents, your teachers, they actually had responsibility for you. They were supposed to make decisions for your benefit even when you didn't understand why. But the people in your life now, they don't have that responsibility. They're not looking out for your best interests. They're looking out for their own. And when you say yes to them out of that childhood programming, you're not being good. You're being exploited. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Someone asks you to help them with something. Immediately, you feel pressure to say yes. Your programming kicks in. If I say no, they'll think I'm selfish. If I say no, they might not help me when I need it. If I say no, I'm being a bad friend or colleague or family member. So you say yes even though you don't have time, even though it's inconvenient, even though you have your own priorities that this interrupts. You say yes, and you feel a little bit of resentment about it. But you push that feeling down because good people don't resent helping others, right? The job opportunity that required immediate application. The relationship that needed time investment to develop. The skill that needed daily practice to master. The business that needed focused attention to launch. All of these opportunities came and went while you were busy doing favors for people who will never reciprocate at the same level. Fifth, you lose clarity about what you actually want. When you're constantly responding to other people's requests, you never develop the habit of asking yourself what you want. You're always in reactive mode. Someone asks, you respond. Someone needs, you provide. Someone demands, you comply. This reactive pattern becomes so ingrained that you lose touch with your own desires, your own goals, your own vision for your life. You become a passenger in your own existence, perpetually responding to external demands while your internal compass atrophies from disuse. Now drop this affirmation in the comments. Every yes I give away is a no to myself. Because the next truth reveals exactly how people are using your inability to say no to manipulate you, and why the people who ask the most deserve your yes the least. Now here's the really insidious part. The more you say yes when you mean no, the more demands people make of you. Because you've shown them that asking works. You've demonstrated that you're a reliable source of free labor, free time, free emotional energy. So they come back, again and again. And each time, saying no gets harder because now there's history. Now there's a pattern. Now if you finally say no, you're not just saying no to one request. You're breaking an established dynamic. You're changing the rules of the relationship. And that feels even more dangerous than just saying yes one more time. This is how people end up completely overwhelmed, exhausted, and resentful while everyone around them thinks they're doing fine. Because you keep saying yes. You keep showing up. You keep delivering. Nobody sees the cost because you hide it. You smile while you're dying inside. You agree while you're screaming internally. You accommodate while your own life falls apart. And you do all of this because at some point, you learn that saying no is more dangerous than saying yes. But that lesson was a lie. Machiavelli observed that people who cannot say no become servants to everyone who asks. They live their entire lives in service to other people's agendas while their own dreams remain unrealized. They wonder why they're always busy but never accomplishing anything meaningful. It's because they're busy accomplishing things for everyone else. They've become tools that other people use to build their own lives. And the tragedy is that most of them never realize this is what happened. They think they're just being helpful. They think they're being good people. They don't see that they've been reduced to resources that others extract value from. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My yes means nothing if I can't say no. Because the next truth is going to show you exactly what your constant yes is costing you, and why every yes you give away is taking something irreplaceable from your own life. The second brutal truth is that saying yes when you mean no isn't generosity. It's self-destruction disguised as kindness. Every time you say yes to someone else's priority, you're saying no to your own. Every time you say yes to their request for your time, you're saying no to your own goals. Every time you say yes to their need for your energy, you're saying no to your own rest and recovery. You have finite resources, finite time, finite energy, finite capacity. When you give these away freely to anyone who asks, you're not being noble. You're being negligent with your own life. Let me break down the real cost of your inability to say no. First, you lose time. Not just the immediate time spent doing the thing you said yes to, but all the compounding time costs. The thing takes longer than expected. You have to redo parts of it. You have to coordinate with other people. What you thought was a 30-minute favor becomes 3 hours of your life that you'll never get back. Time you could have spent on your own projects, your own development, your own relationships. But you gave it away because you couldn't say no. Second, you lose energy. Not just physical energy, though that's part of it. Mental and emotional energy. The things you say yes to when you mean no drain you in ways that things you actually want to do never would. You feel resentful while you're doing them. You feel anxious about the things you're not doing. You feel frustrated that once again, you're sacrificing your needs for someone else's wants. This emotional drainage is real and significant. It affects your mood, your productivity, your relationships with everyone, not just the person you said yes to. By the end of the day, you're exhausted not from doing hard things you care about, but from doing annoying things you don't care about for people who don't appreciate the cost. Third, you lose respect. Both self-respect and the respect of others. When you always say yes, you signal that your time isn't valuable, that your priorities aren't important, that your needs are flexible. People internalize this signal. They start treating your time as less valuable than their time. They start treating your goals as less important than their convenience. And you start believing this too. You start thinking that everyone else's needs really are more important than yours. That everyone else's time really is more valuable. That prioritizing yourself really would be selfish. This erosion of self-respect is catastrophic. It's the foundation of a life spent in service to others while your own potential withers and used. Fourth, you lose opportunities. While you're busy saying yes to other people's requests, opportunities that could transform your life pass you by. You're too busy to notice them, too exhausted to pursue them, too committed to other people's agendas to commit to your own advancement. The third brutal truth is that the people who ask you for the most are the people who deserve your yes the least. This is going to sound harsh, but pay attention because this pattern is running your life and you haven't noticed it yet. The people who genuinely respect you, who actually value you, who understand that your time and energy are precious, these people rarely ask you for anything. And when they do ask, they ask carefully. They acknowledge the imposition. They make it easy for you to say no. They accept your no without guilt tripping or manipulation. These are people who would do the same for you without needing to be asked. But the people who constantly ask you for things, who always need your help, who repeatedly require your time and energy, these people don't respect your boundaries because you've never shown them any boundaries to respect. They've learned that asking you works, that you'll say yes regardless of the cost to yourself, that your resources are available for their use whenever they want them, and they will continue taking from you until you stop them. Not because they're necessarily bad people, but because you've trained them that taking from you is acceptable and consequence-free. Here's how to recognize the users in your life. First, they ask frequently. If someone is constantly coming to you with requests, needs, problems that require your time or energy, that's a red flag. Occasional requests between people who genuinely care about each other are normal. Constant requests are exploitation. Second, they never offer equivalent value in return. Think about the people who ask you for help. When you need help, are they there? When you need support, do they provide it? Or is the relationship one-directional, with you always giving and them always taking? Third, they get upset when you finally say no. People who respect you accept your no gracefully. They might be disappointed, but they understand that you have your own life and your own priorities. People who are using you react with guilt-tripping, anger, or passive aggression when you set a boundary. They make you feel bad for prioritizing yourself. They question your reasons. They suggest you don't care about them. This emotional manipulation is designed to make you so uncomfortable that you'll cave and say yes just to relieve the discomfort. Don't fall for it. Fourth, they minimize the request when asking, but maximize the guilt when you decline. They say it'll only take a minute when they're asking. But if you say no, suddenly it's a huge deal that you're not willing to help. This bait and switch is manipulation. They're making the ask seem small so you'll feel unreasonable saying no, but treating your refusal as significant so you'll feel guilty about it. Both of these cannot be true. Either it's a small thing that your no shouldn't matter, or it's a big thing that they shouldn't be asking lightly. The contradiction reveals the manipulation. Fifth, they never say no to you because they never put themselves in a position where you'd ask. These are the people who are never available when you need something, who are always too busy, who have legitimate-sounding excuses, but somehow they always have time to ask you for things. This asymmetry is intentional. They're protecting their resources while accessing yours. They've figured out that if they make themselves unavailable enough, you'll stop asking. But they keep asking you because you never make yourself unavailable. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the danger of being too generous with people who contribute nothing in return. He observed that such people will drain you completely if you let them. They have no natural stopping point. They will take everything you're willing to give and then be resentful that you don't have more to give. The only way to stop this pattern is to stop feeding it, to start saying no, to stop being available for people who wouldn't be available for you, to protect your resources from those who only take. But here's what stops most people from doing this. They're afraid that if they stop saying yes, they'll lose the relationship. And sometimes they will. But here's the crucial insight. If saying no ends the relationship, it wasn't a real relationship. It was a transaction disguised as a relationship. They weren't there for you as a person. They were there for what they could get from you. And when you stopped providing it, they left. This is painful to discover, but it's also liberating. Because now you know the truth. Now you can stop investing in people who were never really there for you. Let me tell you what happens when you start saying no to these people. First, they escalate. They ask more forcefully. They apply more pressure. They guilt trip harder. This is them testing whether your new boundary is real or if they can push through it like they've always done. If you hold firm, if you maintain your no despite the pressure, they move to phase 2. They get angry. They might tell you you've changed, that you're not the person you used to be, that you're becoming selfish. Good. You have changed. You've stopped letting them use you. And from their perspective, where they benefit from your lack of boundaries, your boundaries do make you less useful to them. Let them be angry. If you continue holding your boundary through their anger, they reach phase 3. They either accept the new dynamic and adjust their behavior, or they leave. If they accept it, congratulations, you've just upgraded a taking relationship into a potentially reciprocal one. They've learned that you have boundaries and they need to respect them. The relationship might actually become genuine now. But if they leave, if they decide that a relationship where they can't constantly take from you isn't worth having, then you've just filtered out someone who was only using you. Either outcome is good for you. Now here's the really important part. While you're going through this process with the takers, you'll notice something interesting about the givers in your life. The people who actually respect you. They won't be bothered by your new boundaries at all, because they weren't violating them in the first place. They'll actually respect you more for standing up for yourself. They might even be relieved that you're finally protecting yourself from the users they've watched drain you. These relationships will strengthen as the exploitative ones fall away. This is why saying no is such a powerful filter. It reveals who's really in your life for you versus who's in your life for what they can get from you. Most people never figure this out because they never say no long enough to see the pattern. They cave at the first sign of resistance. They feel guilty and backtrack. They convince themselves that maybe this person really does need them, really is different, really will appreciate it this time. And the cycle continues. But if you can hold your boundaries, if you can say no and maintain it despite the pressure, you'll see people's true intentions revealed through their reactions. Drop this affirmation in the comments. People who respect me accept my no. Because the next truth is going to show you exactly how to say no without guilt, and why the guilt you feel when saying no is a trap that's been deliberately set for you. The fourth brutal truth is that the guilt you feel when saying no is not your conscience. It's your programming. You've been conditioned to feel guilty about prioritizing yourself. This guilt is a control mechanism. It was installed in you by people who benefited from you being compliant. Parents who wanted obedience. Teachers who wanted conformity. Institutions that wanted submission. They taught you that putting yourself first is selfish. That saying no is mean. That protecting your interests is wrong. This teaching served them. It made you easier to control, but it's destroying your life. Let me explain how guilt works as a control mechanism. When you say no and immediately feel guilty, that guilt creates discomfort. You want to relieve that discomfort. The fastest way to relieve it is to take back your no and say yes instead. Boom! The guilt disappears. This teaches your brain that saying yes makes you feel better and saying no makes you feel worse. Over time, this becomes automatic. You say yes before you even consider saying no because your brain is trying to avoid the guilt punishment. This is operant conditioning. You've been trained like a lab rat to say yes. But here's what you need to understand. The guilt isn't telling you that you did something wrong. It's telling you that you did something different from your programming. Anytime you act against deep conditioning, you'll feel uncomfortable. People who were raised in restrictive religions feel guilty about perfectly normal activities that violate their religious programming. People who were raised in dysfunctional families feel guilty about healthy boundaries. People who were taught to always put others first feel guilty about self-care. The guilt isn't a reliable moral compass. It's just an indicator that you're doing something your programming doesn't recognize. Machiavelli observed that effective leaders had to learn to act against social conditioning when necessary. They had to make decisions that created short-term discomfort, including guilt, in service of long-term outcomes. The leaders who couldn't tolerate this discomfort, who needed to always feel good about their choices, made weak decisions that felt right but produced bad results. The ability to tolerate guilt while doing what's strategically correct is a fundamental requirement of power and effectiveness. Now let me give you a framework for saying no without guilt. First, recognize that no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your no. The more you explain, the more you're implying that your no is conditional on them accepting your reasons. It's not. Your no stands regardless of whether they understand it or agree with it. When someone asks you for something and you want to say no, say, "I'm not able to do that." Period. Don't add reasons. Don't justify. Don't apologize. Just state the fact of your no. Second, don't apologize for saying no unless you're actually sorry. Most people start their no with an apology. "I'm so sorry, but I can't." This apology implies you've done something wrong by declining. You haven't. You're allowed to say no. You don't need to apologize for it. If you're not genuinely sorry, don't say you are. Say, that doesn't work for me, or I'm not available for that, without the apology. This feels uncomfortable at first because you're breaking the habit of apologetic declining. But it's crucial. Every unnecessary apology reinforces the idea that saying no is something to feel bad about. Third, don't over-explain your reasons. When you say no and someone asks why, resist the urge to give them a detailed explanation. First, they don't need one. Your no is sufficient. Second, any explanation you give becomes something they can argue against or try to problem-solve around. If you say you're busy, they'll suggest another time. If you say you can't afford it, they'll offer to cover costs. If you say you're not interested, they'll try to convince you why you should be interested. Every reason you give is a potential objection they can try to overcome. Don't give them the ammunition. Fourth, get comfortable with their discomfort. When you say no, some people will be disappointed, annoyed, or even angry. That's their problem, not yours. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions about your boundaries. You're not responsible for making your no easier for them to accept. Their emotional reaction is information about them, not about whether your no was appropriate. If someone gets very upset about your reasonable boundary, that tells you they had unreasonable expectations of access to you. Good to know. Now you can adjust accordingly. Fifth, practice saying no to small things to build the skill. Don't wait until it's a huge request with major consequences. Start saying no to minor things where the stakes are low. Someone offers you food you don't want. Say no thank you without explaining why. Someone suggests an activity you're not interested in. Say that doesn't appeal to me without justifying your preferences. Someone asks a question you don't want to answer. Say I'd rather not discuss that without explaining why not. These small practices build your no muscle in situations where the emotional cost is minimal. Sixth, observe how people react to your numbers. This is valuable information. People who respect you will accept your no gracefully and move on. People who don't respect you will push back, question your reasons, try to guilt you into changing your mind, or get angry. These different reactions tell you who's safe to have boundaries with and who will punish you for them. Some people will need to be removed from your life because they cannot tolerate your boundaries. That's okay. Actually, that's necessary. Seventh, remember that your yes means nothing if you can't say no. If you say yes to everything, your yes has no value. It's just your default setting. When you say yes because you genuinely want to, because it aligns with your values and priorities, because you have the resources to give without depleting yourself, that yes is meaningful. But you can only say that kind of yes if you're capable of saying no. Your ability to decline is what makes your agreement valuable. Here's what happens when you start implementing this framework. Initially, you feel guilty every time you say no. Your programming is screaming at you that you're being bad, selfish, mean. Sit with that discomfort. Don't try to make it go away by taking back your no. Just feel it and let it pass. The more you practice saying no despite the guilt, the weaker the guilt becomes. You're retraining your emotional responses, teaching yourself that saying no doesn't lead to catastrophe, that people survive your boundaries, that you're actually okay even when someone is disappointed in you. After a few weeks of consistent practice, you'll notice the guilt starting to fade. It still appears, but it's quieter, easier to ignore. You'll start to feel something else instead. Relief, pride, self-respect. You're taking control of your life back from everyone who was directing it for you. You're prioritizing yourself without apologizing for it. You're protecting your resources instead of giving them away freely. This feels good, really good, better than the temporary relief of saying yes ever felt. After a few months, saying no becomes natural. You don't agonize over it anymore. Someone asks, you consider whether you want to do it, you give your answer. Simple, clean, no guilt, no anxiety, no overthinking. You've successfully reprogrammed yourself. And now you'll notice something interesting. You have time. You have energy. You have resources. Because you're not giving them all away to people who don't reciprocate. You can invest them in yourself, in your goals, in relationships with people who actually value you. Your life starts improving dramatically because you're finally protecting your interests instead of sacrificing them. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My no protects my yes. Because the final truth brings everything together and shows you exactly how to build a life where no is your default and yes is your gift, not your obligation. The fifth brutal truth is that weak people say yes because they're afraid. Strong people say no because they have self-respect. Every yes you give when you want to say no is evidence that you value other people's comfort more than your own well-being. Every no you successfully maintain despite pressure is evidence that you value yourself enough to protect your interests. This is the fundamental divide. Weak people are controlled by what others think. Strong people are controlled by what they think. Weak people fear disappointment. Strong people accept it as inevitable. Weak people seek approval constantly. Strong people approve of themselves. Let me show you what strength actually looks like in practice. Strong people have a clear hierarchy of priorities. They know what matters most to them: their time, their goals, their well-being, their important relationships. When a request comes in, they evaluate it against these priorities. If it aligns, they might say yes. If it doesn't, they say no. Simple. No agonizing. No guilt. Just a straightforward assessment of whether this request serves their priorities or not. Weak people have no such hierarchy. Everything feels equally important because they haven't decided what's actually important to them. So every request feels like it might be the one they should say yes to. Strong people understand that their time and energy are their most valuable resources. They're not renewable. Every day, you get 24 hours. That's it. How you spend those hours determines the trajectory of your entire life. Strong people protect those hours carefully. They don't give them away freely to anyone who asks. They invest them strategically in activities and people that matter. Weak people treat their time as if it's infinite, as if there's always more later, as if giving away an hour here and an hour there doesn't matter. But it does matter. Compound that over years, and you've given away your life to other people's agendas. Strong people are willing to be disliked. They understand that you cannot please everyone, that trying to please everyone guarantees you'll accomplish nothing meaningful. They make choices that some people won't like, and they're okay with that. Weak people need universal approval. They're terrified of anyone thinking poorly of them, so they contort themselves trying to be everything to everyone. They say yes to contradictory requests from different people. They sacrifice their own needs trying to keep everyone happy. And they end up respected by no one because desperation for approval is inherently unattractive. Strong people understand that boundaries create respect. When you have clear boundaries and you enforce them consistently, people learn to respect your limits. They learn that you mean what you say. They learn that testing your boundaries won't work. This creates a dynamic where people are more careful about what they ask of you. They think before they ask because they know you might say no. This means the requests you do get are more legitimate, more important, more worthy of consideration. Weak people with no boundaries get asked for everything. Every random favor. Every minor inconvenience someone doesn't want to handle themselves. They become the path of least resistance. Strong people know that relationships based on what you can provide aren't real relationships. If someone is only in your life because you always say yes, they're not there for you. They're there for what they can get from you. Strong people would rather be alone than surrounded by takers. They understand that quality of relationships matters infinitely more than quantity. They'd rather have 3 real friends than 30 people using them. Weak people fear being alone so much that they'll tolerate exploitative relationships. They'll keep saying yes to people who don't reciprocate because having these one-sided relationships feels better than having no relationships at all. Machiavelli observed that truly powerful people were often more isolated than popular people. They had fewer relationships, but those relationships were deeper and more genuine. They weren't surrounded by crowds of admirers. They were surrounded by a small circle of people they trusted and who genuinely supported them. The popular people, the ones everyone liked, the ones who were always available and always agreeable, these people were actually the weakest. They had influence that was a mile wide and an inch deep. The moment they stopped providing value, their support disappeared. Now let's talk about what it means to make no your default. Most people have yes as their default. Someone asks, their immediate internal response is yes, and then they have to talk themselves out of it if they don't want to do it. This is backwards. If no is your default, someone asks, your immediate internal response is no, and then you talk yourself into it only if you genuinely want to do it and have the resources to do it without depleting yourself. This shift is transformative. It means you're starting from a position of protecting yourself rather than a position of accommodating others. Here's how to implement default no. When someone asks you for something, your automatic first response should be, "Let me think about it." or let me check my schedule, or I'll get back to you. Do not answer immediately. This pause serves multiple purposes. First, it gives you time to actually consider whether you want to do this. Second, it prevents you from giving an automatic yes that you'll regret. Third, it trains people that you don't make instant decisions about your time and energy. They learn that asking you requires patience. This filters out people who need immediate yes responses, which are usually the people trying to pressure you into agreeing before you think it through. During your pause, ask yourself these questions. Do I want to do this? Not should I? Not is this a good thing to do, but do I actually want to do it? If the answer is no, that's your answer. You're allowed to not want to do things. Do I have the resources to do this without depleting myself? Even if you want to do it, if you don't have the time or energy without sacrificing something more important, the answer should be no. Will this move me toward my goals or away from them? If it's not aligned with your priorities, it's a distraction. Say no. What is this person's pattern with me? Do they reciprocate or just take? If they're a consistent taker, default to no unless there's a compelling reason to make an exception. If after this analysis you decide to say yes, make sure it's a clean yes. A yes you won't resent. A yes you can follow through on without martyring yourself. A yes that doesn't require the other person to be grateful or reciprocate because you're doing it freely. If you can't say that kind of yes, say no instead. A resentful yes is worse than a no for everyone involved. You'll do a mediocre job while feeling bitter, and they'll sense your resentment even if you try to hide it. Just say no. If you decide to say no, deliver it cleanly. I'm not able to do that. If pressed for reasons, it doesn't work for me. If pushed further, I've given you my answer. Don't get pulled into explaining or justifying. Your no is complete as it is. Then observe how they react. Their reaction tells you everything you need to know about whether this person respects your autonomy or was just using you. Someone who respects you will accept your no and move on. Someone who is using you will apply pressure, guilt, or anger to try to change your no to yes. Here's what your life looks like after 6 months of default no. You have time. Real time. Time to work on your projects. Time to rest. Time to invest in relationships that matter. Time to develop skills. Time to think. You're not constantly busy doing things for other people. You're selectively busy doing things that actually matter to you. You have energy. You're not constantly drained from resentful obligations. You're energized by activities you chose because you wanted to do them. You have clarity. You know what your priorities are because you've been actively choosing them over other options every time you say no to distractions. You have respect. People treat you differently. They think before they ask you for things. They're more careful about your time. They appreciate it more when you say yes because they know you could have said no. Your relationships are healthier. The takers have filtered themselves out. The givers are still around and your relationships with them are deeper because they're not competing with dozens of exploitative relationships for your attention and energy. You have self-respect. You trust yourself. You believe that your needs matter. You act like someone whose life is valuable because you're protecting it like something valuable. Drop this affirmation in the comments. No is my default. Yes is my gift. Because the final section brings everything together and gives you the complete system for building a life where you're in control, where your time is yours, and where your yes actually means something. Let's bring this all together into a complete system that you can start implementing today. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Today. Because every day you wait is another day of living according to other people's priorities instead of your own. Another day of saying yes when you mean no. Another day of training people that you're available for them to use. This ends now. Step 1. Audit your current commitments. Write down everything you've said yes to. Everything you're currently doing for other people. Everything you've committed to. Look at this list honestly. How many of these things do you actually want to do? How many serve your priorities? How many are you doing out of guilt, obligation, or fear of saying no? This audit will probably be depressing. You'll see how much of your life you've given away. That's good. That depression is motivation. It's fuel for change. Step 2. Create your priority hierarchy. Write down your top 5 priorities. These should be the things that actually matter for your life. Your career goals, your health, your important relationships, your personal development. Whatever is actually important to you, not what you think should be important or what others say should be important. These 5 things are your filter. Every request you receive gets evaluated against these 5 priorities. If it doesn't serve one of them, your default answer is no. Step 3. Start saying no to new requests. From this moment forward, every new request gets the default no treatment. Let me think about it. Then you apply your filter. Does this serve your top 5 priorities? Do you want to do it? Do you have resources without depleting yourself? If any answer is no, you say no to the request. Start building the no muscle with new requests before you tackle the harder work of extracting yourself from existing commitments you should never have made. Step 4. Begin extracting from bad existing commitments. This is the hard part. You've already said yes to things you shouldn't have. Now you need to back out. Start with the least important ones. The commitments that serve no one's interests well. The activities you're doing out of pure obligation with no actual benefit to anyone. Tell the people involved, I need to step back from this. You don't owe elaborate explanations. If pressed, my priorities have shifted and I need to focus my energy elsewhere. Then actually do it. Stop showing up. Stop giving your time. Let it be awkward. The awkwardness will pass. Step 5. Set clear boundaries with the people closest to you. This is crucial. The people closest to you are often the ones who make the most demands on your time and energy. You need to have explicit conversations about your new boundaries. Not asking permission. Informing them. I need to protect my time better. I won't be available for last-minute requests anymore. Or, I need to focus on my priorities. I'll be saying no to things that don't align with them. They might not like this. They might push back. Hold firm. The people who actually care about you will adjust. The people who were just using you will reveal themselves. Step 6. Create systems that protect your time automatically. Don't rely on in-the-moment willpower to say no. Create systems that make no your default. Don't answer your phone if you're in the middle of something important. Let it go to voicemail. Don't respond to messages immediately. People learn that urgency doesn't work on you. Schedule specific times for helping others and keep those times limited. Don't be endlessly available. Have blackout times when you're simply not accessible. Train people that you have boundaries around your time, and those boundaries are real. Step 7. Practice the specific scripts until they're automatic. When someone asks you for something, I'm not able to do that. When they ask why, it doesn't work for me. When they push harder, I've given you my answer. When they guilt trip, I understand you're disappointed, but my decision stands. When they get angry, silence. Let them be angry. You're not responsible for managing their emotions. Practice these until you can deliver them calmly without feeling the need to explain, justify, or apologize. Step 8. Track your progress. Keep a journal of every time you say no. Write down who asked, what they asked for, how you declined, how they reacted, and how you felt. This serves multiple purposes. It makes you conscious of your pattern. It lets you see progress over time. It helps you identify the people who respect your boundaries versus those who don't. After a month, review this journal. You'll see patterns. You'll see certain people asking repeatedly. You'll see your emotional response to saying no changing. You'll see evidence that saying no doesn't lead to catastrophe. Step 9. Celebrate your wins. Every no you successfully maintain is a victory. You're reclaiming your life piece by piece. Acknowledge this. Feel proud of it. Your conditioning wants you to feel guilty about saying no. Consciously override that by celebrating instead. Said no to a request that would have taken 3 hours of your time? That's 3 hours you just saved for your priorities. Celebrate it. Maintained a boundary despite someone's guilt tripping? That's strength. Acknowledge it. Step 10. Prepare for the relationship shifts. As you implement this system, some relationships will change. Some will improve because they were genuine relationships that just needed better boundaries. Some will end because they were only there for what they could take from you. This is painful but necessary. You're filtering your life for quality. You're removing people who don't respect you and making room for people who do. Trust this process. The short-term pain of losing exploitative relationships is nothing compared to the long-term pain of maintaining them. Now here's what you need to understand about the long-term trajectory. The first month is the hardest. You're fighting your programming. You're dealing with pushback from people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. You're feeling guilt, anxiety, and discomfort. Push through. This is where most people quit. They decide it's too hard, too uncomfortable, too much conflict. They go back to saying yes and wonder why their life never changes. Don't be most people. The second month gets easier. Your no responses are becoming more automatic. The guilt is fading. You're seeing the benefits in terms of time and energy recovered. Some of the takers have filtered themselves out. Your life is starting to feel more like yours. The third month, You hit your stride. Saying no is natural now. You're selectively saying yes to things that actually matter. Your priorities are getting attention. Your relationships are healthier. You have space to breathe. 6 months in, you don't recognize your old life. You can't believe you lived that way for so long. You can't believe how much of yourself you gave away. You can't believe how many people you tolerated who didn't respect you. But you're grateful you made the change. Your life is yours now. Your time is yours. Your energy is yours. You get to decide how to spend them. And when you choose to say yes, it means something. It's a gift you're giving because you want to, not an obligation you're fulfilling because you're afraid to say no. The world is full of weak people saying yes to everything and wondering why their lives are a mess. Why they're always busy but never accomplished. Why they're surrounded by people but feel alone. Why they work so hard but have nothing to show for it. You don't have to be one of them. You can be someone who says no, who protects their priorities, who chooses their commitments carefully, who builds a life that's actually theirs. This is available to you right now, but you have to choose it. And you have to start today. Remember what you affirmed in the comments. I say no without guilt or explanation. My yes means nothing if I can't say no. Every yes I give away is a no to myself. People who respect me accept my no. My no protects my yes. No is my default. Yes is my gift. These aren't just words. These are the principles that will transform your life if you actually live them. If this video showed you the truth about why you can't say no and exactly how to fix it, hit that like button. If you want more content about reclaiming your power and building genuine strength, subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop a comment telling me what commitment you're going to say no to this week. What boundary are you finally going to enforce? The transformation starts with one no. Make it count. Say no or stay weak forever. The choice is yours.